Hello and welcome back to Duncan Codes. My name's Duncan. Today we are continuing with University of Helsinki's massive open online course. We are on part 4 and we're just going to start files and reading data. We're going to review reading keyboard input, so we've already looked at that a little bit but a wee while ago. We're going to know what a file and file system are and be able to add empty text file into the file system. And we're going to know how to create a program that reads data from a file. Oh, this would be really good fun. A considerable amount of software is in one way or another based on handling data. Software created for music playing handles music files, and those created for the purpose of image manipulation handle image files. Applications that run on the internet and mobile devices such as Facebook, WhatsApp and Telegram handle user information that is stored in file-based databases. What these all have in common is that they read and manipulate data in one way or another. Also, the data being handled is ultimately stored in some format in one or more files. So we've looked at this already. We're quite familiar with using a scanner. So we've been using the scanner class since the beginning of the course to read user input. The block in which the data is read has been a while loop where the reading ends at a specific input. We've been using the scanner class since the beginning of this course to read user input. The block in which the data is read has been a while true loop where the reading ends at a specified input. So this is sort of our familiar layout, while true, and then if we evaluate our conditional statement to true, it breaks out of the loop. In the example above, we passed system input as a parameter to the constructor of the scanner class. In text-based user interfaces, the input of user is directed into the input stream one line at a time, which means the information is sent to be handled every time the user enters a new line, which means that the information is sent to be handled every time the user enters a new line. Write a program that reads strings from the user until the user inputs the string end. At that point, the program should print how many strings have been read. The string end should not be included in the number of strings read. You can find some examples below of how the program works. Right, so let's get TMC beans open. Press Ctrl+1 to bring up our projects. There we go, let's close this one down. And then we've got number 21, numbers of strings. Let's expand this, see what classes we've got, just the one. That's fine. So what we can do is a simple while loop, so very similar to what they've written here, and then we'll keep looping until end is entered, and then we can have a counter to see how many strings are printed. Right, so we can say while true, system out. I suppose we don't really need a system out, do we? What we can do is create a string. So I'm going to create this string out here and call it input. And then I'm going to say that input is equal to scanner.next. Like that. Oh, I always call my scanners SC, so bad habit. There we go. And then we can create an integer called counter, and we can do counter plus plus, something like that. I need to initialize it to 0 first. There we go. Right, let's give that a run locally and see what happens. Oh, I sent it off for testing, I didn't run it locally at all. That is fine, let's have a look. Your program needs try to read too much input, be sure to use the next line method. That's fine, so let's update this. Now let's run it locally. So we'll do one. Oh, I can't spell today. There we go. End. So it didn't end because I haven't put my if in there, have I? So we can put our if statement in. So if input.equals, because remember for strings it's not equals like this, it's dot equals. So dot equals, and then in between our parentheses and double quotes we can put end. And we can break out of here. Let's try that. Why is it not like that? Let's have a look. Ah. So it says it doesn't like it because it hasn't got a value, so it will never equal end. Right, so let's stop this running then. And let's give it a run. See if I can spell properly this time. 1, to end. So then I need to do the system out, don't I? I need to print out the counter. So system out counter. Right, I'm going to run it locally and see what we get back. Expected 4, you got 5. That's fine. So we just change that to 1. Run it again. Oh, test interrupted. Right, so I made a quick couple of changes. The problem was that I have too many numbers being counted. So if I run it and get that error there. Oh, sorry, I meant to actually run it locally. Right, so if I do 1, 2, and end, we'd expect the output to be 2. But because my input for end is being read as well, it's not working. So all I'm doing is doing minus minus, so it's the same as plus plus, but the minus minus just deducts 1 before we run it. So hopefully this time it should be all good. There we go, excellent. Right, and that's kind of highlighted to me that I need a coffee. So I'm going to quickly pause this, go and grab a coffee, and I'll be back. Right, so I am back with coffee in hand, and all of these tests have passed. So let's OK that, give this a refresh. We should probably do our GitHub as well, shouldn't we? So let's get the project location. And then I'll open Git bash. Oh. And then we'll do cd to change directory, open double quotes, go to the appropriate folder, and then we can do our git add, git commits, -m, completed, part 4, exercise 21, and then git push u origin master. There we go. Lovely. Right, let's see what we've got next. The user input is read in string form. If we wanted to handle the input as integers, for instance, we'd have to convert it to another form. An example program has been provided below. It reads input from the user until the input is entered as end. As long as the user input is not end, the inputs are handled as integers. In this case, the number is simply printed. So we've got our scanner, we've got a break here, and then they're passing the data type from string to integer and printing out the value of that integer, storing it in this variable, and then printing it out here. Write a program that reads strings from the user until the user inputs the string end. As long as the input is not end, the program should handle the input as integers and print the cube of the number provided. So number times number times number. Below are some example outputs. Okie dokie. Let's minimize this, close this one down. There we go, and then we'll open the cubes exercise. Okay, let's get coding. So we've got our scanner, that's grand. We're going to put in our while loop. So while true, we can do string input equals scanner dot next line. If input dot equals end, we'll break out of the loop. If it doesn't, we're going to cast the number to an integer. So int number equals integer dot value of, and then input. And then we can system out that input. And then we need to add in the square, the cube, don't we? So we can add another variable in if we wanted, or we could just add on times number, like that. Let's see what we get back for this. Excellent, there we go, let's get that one sent off. Oh, I updated that one. Right, let's update our GitHub quickly. So git add, git commit -m, completed, exercise 4, challenge, challenge 22. push that. So git push u, origin and master, and there we go. Right, so we've done our cubes. Let's give that a little refresh. Now we're going to work with files and file system. So files are collections of data that live in computers. These files can contain, among other things, text, images, music, or any combination of these. The file format determines the content of the file as well as the program required to read the file. For example, PDF files are read with a program suited for reading PDF files, and music files are read with a program suited for reading music. Each of these programs is made by humans, and the creator of these programs, or programmers, also specify the format as part of the work. Computers have several different programs for browsing files. These programs are specific to the operating system. All programs used for browsing files make use of the file system of the computer in one way or another. Our development environment provides us with the ability to browse the files of a project. In NetBeans, you can take a look at all files attached to the project by selecting the Files tab, which is found in the same place as the Projects tab. So the Files one is just this one up here on the top. If the tab cannot be found, it can be opened from the window menu, which is just here, and then you can see you've got all of these options here. Clicking the project to open it will reveal all of its files. There's something that I found quite useful when coding in larger projects, which is the navigator bar here. So I'm fairly sure we can split screen this. Why is it not doing it? Oh, there we go. Cool. So this shows a list of all of the methods. So for larger projects, if you imagine you've got 10, 12 different methods, you can look down here, figure out where they are, double click them, and it will take you to that appropriate line number. So that's quite cool to know as well. So now we are going to create a new file. In this exercise, we won't be programming. Instead, you'll familiarize yourself with the Files tab in NetBeans and how to create a new file. Create a file called file.txt in the root folder, the folder containing the source folder and the pom.xml of the exercise template using the Files tab in NetBeans. Edit the file and write the message hello world on the first line. Let's go to Files. Let's close down Cubes. Open the creating a file one. So here's our source folder they mentioned and the POM. Okay, so we're going to open up our file explorer. So mine are on my E drive. We're on part 4, so let's scroll all the way down there, and we're on 23, which is creating a new file. Here's our source and POM file. We can just right click on here and then do new text document. What are we meant to call it? Let's have a look. File.txt, lowercase, so file.txt. Edit the file and write the message hello world on the first line. There we go, let's save that. Make sure we've got our capitals and things in the right places. Oh, I've got capital W in. There we go. And let us give that a run and see what we get back. There we go. All passed. Very good. I suppose technically we should update the GitHub, shouldn't we? But it seems a bit unfortunate to update it just for one single file, but we shall do it because it forms good habits and muscle memory and all those good things. So completed part 4, exercise 23, git push u, origin and master. There we go, got that sent off. Let's OK that, minimize this, give that a refresh. There we go. So concrete file storage format. Files exist on the hard drive of a computer, which is in reality a large set of ones and zeros, or bits. Information is made up of those bits. One variable of type int can take 32 bits, so 32 ones or zeros. Modern terabyte-sized hard drives can hold about 8 trillion bits. On this scale, a single integer is incredibly small, or very small, sorry. Files can exist practically anywhere on a hard drive, even separated into multiple pieces. The computer's file system has the responsibility of keeping track of the locations of files on the hard drive, as well as providing the ability to create new files and modify them. The file system's main responsibility is extracting the true structure of the hard drive. A user or a program using a file doesn't need to care about how or where the file is actually stored. So I'm sure that when we move through the course, we'll be looking at abstraction in more detail as well. It's quite a big computing term that I'm sure you've heard already, but we shall, I'm sure, look at it later. Reading a file is done using the scanner class. Interesting. When we want to read a file using the scanner class, we give the path for the file we want to read as a parameter to the constructor of the class. The path to the file can be acquired using Java's path.get command, which is given the file's name in string format as a parameter. So here we go, we've got our file name.extension. When the scanner object that reads the file has been created, the file can be read using a while loop. The reading proceeds until the lines of the file have been read to the end. The reading proceeds until all the lines of the file have been read, i.e. until the scanner finds no more lines to read. Reading a file may result in an error, and it's for this reason that the process requires separate blocks. So we've got a try and a catch. We'll be returning to the topic of error handling later. So where are we? So here we've got an exception which is called E. So if we are trying to find a file and there is no file, we can call this exception and it will give us a message and tell us what the problem is. So you would have experienced exceptions already. So you know the red text that you get at the bottom when you get errors and things like that. Get file not found exception, input mismatch, which is probably one that we get a bit. In fact, I'll show you an input mismatch. So what I'm going to do is just quickly create a scanner. And then what we're going to do, I'm going to create an integer. So int input equal, in fact we don't need to give it a number. And then we'll say input is equal to sc.next. I'll do next int, just to keep it happy. If I give that a run, and then I type in some letters, we should get an input mismatch. So let's just make this bigger. There we go. So exception in the thread main, which is our main class, and then we've got a java.util input mismatch exception. A lot of people get quite put off when they receive errors, but they're really useful in tracking down what the problem could be with your code. And I'll just very briefly go into interpreting an error. So here we've got an input mismatch, and then we've got here line 939, 1500, 2000, etc. What that's referring to is the scanner class. So remember, the scanner is a class. If we clicked on that and followed it and looked at line 2212, we would find a method that we've tried to use and we've used it wrong. So it's saying that all of these errors have occurred at our program.main on line 12. Okay, so that makes a bit more sense for what we're doing. So if we come back to our code here, you can see that exactly on line 12 is our error. So don't be put off by all the high numbers and thinking, well, actually, you know what, I haven't got 700 lines in my code. It's just because it's making reference to classes that you may be using in your code. So that is one of the exceptions, an input mismatch. So let's delete this. A file is read from the project root folder when the new scanner path.get file.txt is called, the folder that contains the folder source and the file pom. So that's the one that we looked at earlier, where we created the new file, file.txt. Possibly other files as well. The contents of this folder can be inspected using the Files tab in NetBeans. Open the print in a file. Okay. There we go. Right. So it would be good practice, or best practice, if we write this in its own method. So let's do public static void print file. And let's see, what do we need next? So we're going to need our scanner. So we'll do scanner sc equals new scanner. And then inside here, instead of system.in, we're going to do paths.get and then file.txt. Let's just check that. In files. Oh, data.txt. There we go. So you can see here we've got this error and it says unreported exception. We can put a try catch in, or we should be able to add a throws clause. So the throws clause will add it to the method, so you can see here. But what we've been specifically asked to do is to add a try catch block. So let's surround the statement with a try catch. There we go. In our try, we've got our scanner. We're also going to, actually, let's move our scanner into the section up here. Will that work? Let's see. Cool. Okay, so we've got that working. So then inside our try, we can add in a while block, or a while statement, sorry. So while scanner dot has next line, we will perform the following code, which is going to be string row equal to scanner dot next line, and then all we need to do is print out row. Ooh. Row like that, and then our exception, we've got an input output exception, and then so ours is printing to this logger. What I'm going to do is change that to the stack trace. So let's do sout error, just like they've done here, and then plus, theirs is E but ours is EX, which is fine. So let's give that a little run and see what happens. And obviously nothing's going to happen because I forgot to call it. So print file, there we go. Now let's run it and let's see what happens. There we go. So we got 2 printouts. Let's actually see what we should have got. So we've got 9A, so it didn't print that one. Let's have a look back here. So it skipped a line, so I wonder if it's something around here. Just have a look at their example. So we've got while scanner has next line, which we've got string row scanner dot next. So there's his dot next line. Let's give this a little run. So we've changed it from next line to next. No, it doesn't like that at all. Just changed it back to next line. What I'm going to do is test it against the server and just see if it gives me a bit more information with regard to the error. Oh, it's passed. Okay, I'll take that. That's fine. Right, I think we probably refreshed it too soon there. Let's get ready to move on to the next section. Oh, we need to do our GitHub, don't we? Okay, so git add. You guys will know this by now, I'm sure. Git commit. Completed. Exercise 4. Part 24. Excellent. Right, so git push u origin master. There we go. Let's press OK. Grand. Right, now let's refresh that. Printing a specified file. Write a program that asks the user for a string and then prints the contents of a file with a name matching the string provided. You may assume that the user provides a file name that the program can find. The exercise template contains the files data.txt and song.txt, which you may use when testing the functionality of your program. The output of the program can be seen below for when the user has entered the string song and the content is printed. Oh, okay, the content printer comes from song.txt. I'm going to pinch this because what we're going to write is going to be very, very similar. Right, let's close this down. Go to our projects, get rid of this one. Still can never remember where close is. Let's open 25. Okie dokes. Right, so I'm going to use I was going to use a method, but I didn't put one in. So let's write a method. So public static and void find file. There we go. That little pop-up was just saying, do you want to input output exception, file reader and scanner, which we've done. I'm just going to select all of the text and press Alt, Shift and F. It makes it all nice and formatted. And then what we're going to do, as soon as we've already got a scanner there, we could put a system out inside the find file to prompt the user, but we might as well just do it here. So scanner, what we're going to do? We are going to create a string called file name, and then we're going to say file name is equal to font type, scanner.next line. And when we call the file find file, what we can do is pass it file name, like that. Come here, and then type in string file name, and then change this to file name. Let's see if that works. There we go, look at that. So of course, it doesn't matter if you put the scanner inside your method or if you had all of this inside your main, just different ways of doing things. I was going to mention actually about another way to read data, which is using the buffered reader, which you might want to have a look at, which is quite interesting. Let's get rid of this. There we go. So buffered reader reads input streams or streams of data. You can set the size of them as well, so if your buffered reader is a bit too small you can make it larger, but you've got all of these different options for reading and retrieving data from a file. So text file example. Love a bit of Guru 99. So they're creating a new buffered reader here, and they're passing this file in, so we could replace that if we wanted with a string like we did there. And then you can use exactly the same, a while loop, to read through it. So while here, the current line is equal to, so while that does not equal null and there's more lines to look at, then it will continue to print out. So that's another way that you could do it. But yeah, like Guru 99 is quite a good website. So yeah, you might want to have a look at buffered readers just to get another idea of how to read and write to files. That might be quite interesting for you. All right, let's just refresh this. Oh, need to do GitHub, don't I? So git add, git commit completed part 4. What exercise is this? Is it 25 or 24? 25. Right, 25. If you didn't put your end quote on, if you just put it on the next line or any of the lines after that, it will still work. I'm sure that must have happened to some of you. So if that ever does happen, just finish off the command, put your close quote on, and you'll be all good. Right. In the example below, we read all the lines of the file.txt, which are then added to an array list. Okay, so we've got our try. While our scanner has next line, lines.add, add that line to the list, and then printing out the total size of lines. So let's have a look at this. Exercise template comes ready with functionality for the guest list application. It checks whether names entered by the user are on the guest list. However, the program is missing the functionality needed for reading the guest list. Modify the program so that the names on the list are read from the file. Okay, let's get rid of this one and check out this one. So guest lists. Let's see what we've got. So we've got a scanner, we've got a file, so the name of the file. Oh, so we'll have to check files, won't we, to see what the name of the file is. Names.txt. Got our array list. System.out.print, implement reading the file here. Oh, okay. Right, so I'm going to get rid of that for now. And then if we're going to be importing, we're going to need our try catch with a scanner. Hang on, we've got a scanner, haven't we? So, actually let's just create a new one anyway. We'll call this one file scan, and that's equal to new scanner, and then that's going to be paths.get, no, get, and then in brackets file. Oh, we need to do the import, don't we? There we go, add the catch clause. Inside the try, we're going to read the file. So while file scanner file scan.has next line. Then we're going to create our string row is equal to file scan.nextLine. And then what else? So we need to then add that row to the list. So list.add row. Cool. And then in our catch, I'm going to get rid of the logger. And then just use the same that we did last time, so error plus that. And then let's just have a look at the rest of this. Okay. Let's give that a test and see what we get back. I'm not massively confident on this one. Oh, wow, okay, there we go, all tests passed. Let's send that off then. Let's do our GitHub. So we'll do git add, git commit -n completed, part 4, oh, jumping the gun a bit, exercise 26, and then we need to do push, git push, origin and master. There we go, let's okay that. Cool, excellent. Just to point out as well, with me pushing these to my GitHub repository, you guys will be able to see that GitHub repository as well. So if there's any code that for some reason you can't quite see on screen, you'll be able to access all of these things that I'm pushing to my GitHub. So if we go to my GitHub, D Skilton, you can see University of Helsinki. So that's literally what we're doing now. So if you get super stuck, then you've got the code there as well to have a look at if that might help. I'm going to pause just before this next exercise. I have recorded the rest of this section, part 5, so I'll continue editing the rest of the video today and hopefully get the rest of this section out later this week. But as always, and until next time, good luck and happy coding.